Welcome back, Start the Thing family. So excited to connect with you again. If you are new to this show, my name is Rob, and I'm so glad you're listening today. In this space, we talk about starting side hustles and learn from folks who have been successful in the space. As an FYI, sometimes side hustles become full-time jobs, which is the story of our guest today. Start the Thing family, please welcome Justin from Queen's Orders Honey to the show. Hello, Justin.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time out of your day. I don't know, family, when you're watching this, but this is probably peak season for Justin when it comes to beekeeping as we're in the middle of the summer here in North Carolina. Justin, thanks for taking the time, and let's go ahead and jump right into some questions here. So today we get to talk about beekeeping, which I think is an exciting topic. Excited to hear from you. But before that all started, you were a little bit lost. I may have crept on your website and listened to or looked at your about section on your webpage. Share a little bit about your journey from the uncertainty to the decision to start beekeeping.
Yeah, sure. It's something I'm pretty open book about because honestly, I feel like it's where a lot of people find themselves when they are really like, oh wait, I got to do something different in my life. 2018, I pretty much just figured out school wasn't enough going well for me. The trajectory I was planning to do was a couple more years at graduate school after almost completing my undergraduate, and I just was not feeling it anymore. Also had some personal stuff. I actually got sober at that point, at the beginning of or end of 2017, early 2018. Still sober to this day. That's a
Nice,
huge
congratulations.
Thank you. That's a huge reason why I really wanted to take a look at my life and kind of see, what was wrong and what was right. And the thing I kept coming back to was, what did I enjoy doing as a kid? The thing I loved most when I was a kid was bugs, and that's what I wanted to go to school for. I was doing my undergraduate for biology at UNCC here in Charlotte. I then wanted to go to NC State for entomology, which is bugs. But besides all that, as I kind of got inundated with all the research parts of it, I really enjoyed this one place in Charlotte. It's called the Discovery Center, or Discovery Place. I had all my birthdays there when I was younger. And I started to volunteer at the one in it's kind of central Charlotte. It's in Charlotte's biggest park, Freedom Park, and there they had bees. They had a couple hives. This is pretty early on in like the kind of the beekeeping boom that we're still going through at this point. But when I found out that they had the bees, and I was also kind of brought in with the Save the Bees initiatives, and bees are dying at alarming rates. Pollinators are very important, and I'm very into conservation and the sustainability. So all of these things kind of just pointed to beekeeping.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was going to be my career at this point, but I was very interested enough to say, let me just see what this is all about. Let me buy a hive. So that's exactly what I did. I bought a hive from a local beekeeper. We'll actually mention later. He's a really, really good guy. And just kind of started out on my own, figuring out very haphazardly, and I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the things I now do with my own business is teach people to do everything I did not do, or things that I wish I'd done with my training programs and the Hive Host. But yeah, it actually worked. But yeah, it really just came from not knowing what to do and being at kind of like the dead end of all the other options I'd gone through before. So
Yeah,
those two leads
man,
better.
I love a part of that story. Actually, I love a couple parts of that story. The thing that I think was really cool was you got to the point where you asked yourself, what was it that I loved when I was a little kid, right? Like, what did I enjoy doing? Where were those moments and those things that I enjoyed doing? And then I think what I'm starting to hear, and we'll jump into it maybe a little bit later down the road, but there was a person or two that kind of came along you, right? That mentorship, and that's kind of what this Start the Think family is all about too. Is so many people these days, stuff is so dang expensive, and just a lot of costs, and so sometimes people are working full-time jobs and they need a side hustle to make that extra money to pay for kids things or mortgages or whatever it may be. And so I just love that you have somebody in your life that was kind of saw you doing what you were doing and invested in you, which is pretty cool. But you mentioned that originally you bought a hive and you were kind of thinking, hey, I'm just going to try this thing out. And looking at your webpage and the conversations you and I have had, this has moved more from a side hustle to a business. When did that happen? How did it kind of move from a side hustle to a business for you?
Yeah, sure. It's probably something that a lot of your other guests have echoed too. It's of course during the pandemic when my full time thing. I was a vet tech, vet assistant, and thank God we were still afloat and still had jobs and whatnot. We were essential workers, but that's when due to the changes that were occurring, and just how rapid everything was just starting to change. It started to feel very uncomfortable, and I didn't really seem like it was for me. So I just had this whim to see if people wanted to have me take care of their bees for them. Yeah, a couple of people mentioned this to me. I work with a landscaper out in East Charlotte. He kind of does a similar thing with landscaping with native plants. And just based on the conversations we had, I actually felt that this was something that I could do. And sure enough, I just posted on Nextdoor in my kind of my neighborhood unit, and I got within maybe a weekend like 100 hits from all sorts of people being like, "What is this? I never heard of this before. This is awesome." From those 100 hits, I maybe got maybe 5 clients that I still have to this day. But yeah, that's when said, I can make this work. I to I do have other means of income. I own a rental property. I do that landscaping on the side with that guy in East Charlotte every once in a while, maybe like the off season for beekeeping. I teach yoga, which is very very low key. It's more of just a passion and a love rather than a source of income. But
Yeah.
yeah, once I found out that I could do that and get out of the field that I was in and really follow my passion, I just jumped on it.
Yeah, I love that, and I think maybe I've learned a little bit more about you. So of my listeners, Justin, your middle name must be Side Hustle. You rattled off a couple more things that you're doing to make a living, which I love. Some for a living, some for sanity purposes. We're thinking about yoga. That's pretty cool. So how did you get started? I mean, I know you bought the hive, but walk me through a little bit of that first process once you had that Nextdoor app and you said, hey, this is going to be a legit thing. It's going to be a full time gig. How did you kind of go from that point to maybe selling honey or honeycomb or whatever that looked like that kind of first season you decided to go full into it?
Yeah, so that was 2021, spring of 2021, and at that point I had maybe a dozen and a half hives. So and every spring, they essentially, if you're doing everything right, which most springs and most winters I am, they will duplicate. So if I go into the winter with 12 or maybe 20 hives, as is normally the case, I'll have 40 by that spring because they'll kind of like flowers, kind of like plants. They just make another copy of themselves because they did so well that summer. They want to spread their genetics, and so from those hives, I knew I was going to have a certain amount that I would need to get rid of, and that was going to be my Hive Host clients. I would be then selling these hives that I would be starting that year and set them up in their yards and just kind of go from there. I would still have plenty of my hives to take care of, no lack in that. And I just knew that, yeah, like if I'm just getting this amount of response from Nextdoor, like there's so many other facets I haven't even tapped into that I could still work. And I think it's just a matter of like people not knowing that this thing exists, that this service exists, and once they do, not everyone's into it, mind you, but for those that are really into the same things that I am, conservation, sustainability, just kind of getting to know your backyard, know your surroundings, it opens up a lot for these people, myself included. So yeah, I know that there's always a clientele for these things, even if you think it's very niche. I can assure you that there's someone that's interested in it, like you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality too, you go to any farmer's market or any place, kind of around, there's going to be somebody selling some kind of honey or honeycomb or some kind of a lip balm or something like that that's got it, which I think is great. But so what did you decide to do to make income with the business? Obviously, they're selling honey, but what else do you do to draw an income from the side hustle?
Man, everything and anything bee related. So obviously, I sell the honey, which is more like my slush fund because especially like now I have a surplus of honey that I've extracted and I sell from my doorstep. I sell at farmers markets. Um, but honestly, if anyone is listening to this in the future and they want to get into beekeeping to make money, stop. You will not. It's very hard to do just from honey alone because it only makes you so much. In the process, you're having to spend so much money that you will be in the red for years and years and years to come. Some people make it. Some people do it without doing the things that I do. But I definitely needed some other means of income, and I needed it to not just be you really only get honey once a year, one big
Hmm.
harvest in the summer, and that's going to last you the rest of the year. It's like any sort of crop, you'll get it once, and then that's going to last you. That's not going to work for me. It's got to be something constant. So in the summer and fall and throughout winter, if I have enough, that's the honey. In the spring, though, that's when I start to sell the bees. Um, that's again they make copies of themselves, so I'll sell those bees in boxes and units to people that want starter colonies or even full colonies, and that can extend out to the year too. But it mainly is just in spring when people want to get their hive started. I do extraction, so if bees swarm and find a cavity in your house or your garage or somewhere that you don't want them to be, I'll come and extract them. It's pretty meticulous work, so that also you know it costs a lot, but it is very difficult work. And I'm just now getting into that. I'm not super seasoned, but it's something I definitely want to explore more because it's nice. Then I also get a colony of bees and I save them from whatever they were going to do, maybe to kill them with pesticides or whatever. I can rehome them, rescue them, and bring them back to my house and turn them into a colony. And of course the Hive Host, which is a subscription service, so that keeps me some amount of income throughout the year. Um,
Tell me more
and
about that hive host, Justin. What do you mean by that? What is a hive host?
sure, glad you asked. It is my essentially it's gardening with bees. As a gardener, will come by your house, take care of your flowers, water, fertilize, weed, whatever. I'm doing that with your bees. You buy a hive from me, um, and from that point, all the means are dealt with. Whatever they need, whether it may be food in the summer, when there's a dearth, when there's not many flowers, mite control, mite being the varroa mite that's very that's the reason why bees are dying off at alarming rates is because of this mite. Very problematic, and I take care of that. I keep them from swarming in the spring. I of course all the honey that they produce is extracted. Usually about right now, actually, I'm actually extracting a few more of my clients' hives this week and next week. You get all that honey, and it's a subscription where you're paying monthly flat rate, but you don't have to worry about anything else. Everything else is included. I jar it, I bottle the honey if you want, I put labels on it if you want. So you get the whole beekeeping experience without having to, actually stick your hands in a hive. But however, if you want that experience, which honestly I wouldn't blame you, it's really fun. You can even shadow me. You can watch me take care of the bees. I have one client that every time I go over to her house, she gets on the suit and she watches me. She likes to find
Right.
the queen. Um, and then if you actually want to then take care of it yourself, you see enough of it, and you say, hey, I think I can do this. That's something I also allow in my beekeeper training program, which is just like the Hive Host program, except you're shadowing me with the intention that you're one day going to take the reins and feel like, unlike what I did, jumping straight into it and thinking you're going to figure this out. You've got a little bit more experience doing the thing under your belt before that happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So how long was it that you went from all right, I'm going to sell some honey to kind of help support this habit a little bit, this side hustle you were doing, to when you started to think about adding in some of these extra things that would provide a little bit more income for you? What was a year, 2 years, couple years? How long did it take you to kind of go from selling honey to doing some of these other things?
Honestly, really quickly, 6 months maybe, because I didn't even harvest honey for my first 2 years. I maybe harvested a little bit on the second year, but it was really the third year, that 2020. And that's when I said, I'm really not going to make that much honey or money for this honey. It's, very hard to distinguish. And I just really wanted to make it work. I wanted to keep bees. Like I want. This
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. I was very passionate about this, and I was gonna do whatever it took to make that happen. And I knew that my passion was gonna guide me with that. Like I knew my interest. I knew when I talked to people, people too felt the very same feelings that I felt towards bees, even if they never even had that experience with bees. And I could help, like, sort of bring this into the front of their mind if they're not thinking about it. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just like I just trusted that I was going to be able to make this work, and yeah, having that faith really did pay off. I mean, it's definitely been hard work. It's not something that I like, um, you know, just kind of slack off. It's a constant work. If I'm not working on my hives, I'm working on my website. I'm talking to other people about bees. I'm doing presentations. The presentation is another thing I forgot to mention there. I do presentations to schools,
Mm.
4-H programs, homeschool programs. Anyone who will have me, I bring out an observation hive that has bees in it that you can watch from a distance, and learn about bees. And I love doing those, especially with younger kids, seeing like the light bulbs come on. So again, I knew I was passionate enough about this to make that work, and again, so far so good.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I mean, I always learn doing these shows, and I'm aware of bees obviously, and beekeeping and different things like that. But I love the fact that there's almost a side hustle within the side hustle, because I think the newbie people that are out there that aren't really thinking a lot about it, they're probably seeing honey at farmers market like we've talked about. But you've really found some other ways to continue to be able to do this hobby that's a side hustle, that's a full-time gig, by really hustling and learning from a lot of people. My guess too, though, as you've gone through this, it hasn't been kind of all sunshine and rainbows. There's probably been some really kind of challenging moments that have happened along the way. Any stories, excuse me, that you can share that you had to kind of overcome from a setback standpoint, and maybe something you learned out of that process?
I had a pretty rough winter actually. That was it last? No, I think it was 2021 to 2022, where I think that's where we had like four snows in within 4 weeks, and bees, like many other insects, don't really like the snow, don't really like the cold. And I just would go out to my bee yard, and then just every week or so I'd find colony after colony of the maybe 30 I went into with, maybe a dozen and a half had died from
Mm,
essentially lack of nutrition, uh, mites, you name it. They just kind of, the cold just made everything a lot worse. And that was where I really had to, evaluate how I was going into the winter, and really if I was going to make this work this next year, like how was I going to make this much honey? How was I going to be able to sell the bees, and so on and so forth. So that was definitely the most difficult, because yeah, you're dealing with the elements here. That's
yeah.
something that it should be obvious, but everything is at the whim of Mother Nature. Whether or not you have a good honey crop that year, it's based on how well the spring went. Did you have that late frost that killed off the flowers? Did it kill off your bees? Was it too variable in the winter to where the bees couldn't find some balance and rhythm to where they were thrown off and then they died? It's something that we're always having to think about, and now I'm a little bit more focused on that, and that's definitely changed how it has an effect on me. But that, yeah, that was my most challenging time.
So yeah, I'm constantly learning, which I love. I'm totally hearing that from you as just part of your life story is just continuing to learn and continuing to grow, which honestly isn't super unique. A lot of people doing side hustles. That's I don't know if it's a default thing and people are willing to do side hustles, but they're often really good at learning and adapting and trying things and being willing to kind of put themselves out there. Let's get super practical for a moment, Justin. If someone is considering getting started with beekeeping, what's one or two suggestions that we give them right away in terms of starting well?
Find a mentor. Someone that is going to be able to help you go through your colony hand in hand, show you the ropes, because you think you can, we're in the information age where you can pull up the answer on your phone. Siri's going to answer it for you. Google's not going to answer for you. There's for one question you may have regarding your hive, you're going to have 1,000 different answers. It's never that black and white. It all depends. Everything, it depends. So yeah, to have that experienced beekeeper go through it with you. If you take it, you can go through a school. I went to the Mecklenburg County Bee School. I learned a lot from that, but I still, of the things I learned, I can't say I'm practicing that much in my very own hive. As well as that education was, most of what I learned was just through my own experience and just getting the ropes as I went. But if I had that beekeeper to go with me, as I did have one mentor that was really helpful, that actually would come over to my hives and check it out for me and kind of show me, this is something you need to be worried about. This isn't. Was a lot of help. But yeah, I can't recommend that enough. And also
Yeah.
have some money.
Yeah, that always helps, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you don't do another side hustle to get that side hustle of beekeeping going, right?
Right.
All right, so how about again on the line of just kind of very practical in terms of somebody who is thinking about a side hustle and maybe it's beekeeping, maybe it's something different, but what about software? Like, what have you found to be helpful, things that have helped you grow your business, things that have helped you manage the business from kind of a software or an app perspective? Anything out there that you're using?
Google Sheets as far as keeping records with my clients because I mean this is very exclusive to me with my Hive Host service, but it also could probably help someone with their own hives if they want to make a table that then says how many all your hives, and then you write notes every week because it's really easy to lose track of that. And it's really just in general, it's great to have a journal. Nothing, too super duper crazy. Just, Google Docs works as well. To just, write what you saw this day or this week, and then you can reflect back on that the next year, the next spring, just so you have some record. Oh, this is what I was doing because it's very easy to forget, especially when you have a couple dozen hives. When I had a handful, it was just like, oh yeah, this one's doing this one's doing that. No big deal, but it's very
Yeah.
hard to keep track of them now. So yeah, just any sort of simple note taking software, free. I don't pay for any of that stuff at the moment. It may escalate to that one day. There are a couple beekeeping things, journal wise apps. I've never really found much use for those. They are really cool, and I'm glad someone has created those. But something as simple as the things I described are fine.
Yeah, well, and I think for folks starting out, free's a great word. So if you're just getting going, Google Sites is good. What about social media? Are you doing anything on Facebook, anything on Instagram, anything like that? Or I've heard you say Nextdoor app a couple of times, which I think is great. But anything from like the marketing perspective that's worked well for you in addition to Nextdoor?
Yeah, I do Instagram, Facebook, of course. I'm venturing into TikTok and haven't had a whole lot of hits from that. It just, I mean, there's I guess, the one chance that I might just go viral from one post or whatever. But it's kind of
Sure.
not worth the effort, I find. It's more of just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But Instagram definitely it helps me more so connect with people in my area, and honestly, Facebook too. I posted something on Facebook, and I'm guessing that's how you maybe found out about me because
Yep.
it just blew up too all of a sudden, and now I have like 2,000 followers and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, just letting this roll. And I did some Facebook advertising. I didn't get a whole lot of hits with that. Very local, and I made it so that it was very like to my niche audience. I love that they were able to cater to that. If I can select these people that like this stuff and that stuff. But so far, that wasn't really the best way. I think as far as advertising my services, when I go to do these presentations, that when they're actually
Mm.
meeting me in person and we're talking about it, and they see again, they're more passionate about my endeavors because I'm showing them and I'm talking about it and I'm verbally expressing it. That's when it really kind of resonates with people. So yeah, all those other things are good to get my name out, but if I really want to sell like one of my services, Hive Host or beekeeping training, it's more or less from my in person presentations.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I kind of was thinking about that when you were talking about the presentations. I was thinking that word of mouth marketing, a lot of times when other people will tell other people about your services, but you're doing really a direct marketing by being out there and sharing your passion for it, and I'm sure that comes through and likely, like you said, gives you a decent business pathway. So today, and start the thing family, I'm introducing a new segment, and I did give Justin a heads up that I was going to do this, so he's hopefully prepared. This segment is called Thankfully Mentored, and it's an opportunity for our guests to say thank you to a mentor who has helped them along the way. Big believer in, and we get better together. So, Justin, do you have a mentor you would like to give a shout out to today?
Yeah, this is a super easy one. It's the very same guy that sold me my first hive, or he at least helped me get that hive. It was like one of his neighbors, but since then I bought pretty much all my equipment from him. His name is Tommy Helms, owner of Helms Apiary here in Charlotte. He was one time the president of the Beekeeper Association here in Mecklenburg County. I mean, I can't. I literally called him maybe about an hour before I talked to you. Something like it was just like a very easy thing to talk to him, but I can always rely on just like telling him, "Hey, Tommy, what's up with this?" Has an answer. Okay, great. And yeah, he is also like I don't know how old he is, but he's way older than me, and yet he still manages like 50 plus hives. And I'm just like, whenever I'm tired and my wrist or something, shoulder hurts from hauling supers of honey, I'm just like, Tommy is still doing this, and he makes all of his
Yeah,
equipment from scratch. Like he is the man. So if
yeah.
you're, thinking about getting started, I won't sell you the equipment, but if you're in Charlotte, and you want to get started, reach out to Tommy Helms. I would love to give him that plug and give him the attention he needs because he so deserves it.
That's awesome. And what was his business name again?
Helms Apiary.
Okay, great. Helms Apiary up there in Charlotte. So if you're listening, you're from the Charlotte area, and you need to get started, that's a good space. Thank you for that opportunity. Hopefully, Tommy gets to see that because I think it's always good for mentors to be appreciated, and glad we had to have that. Glad we had an opportunity to have that moment there. So, getting close to kind of parting ways here. Any final thoughts you've got related to beekeeping and side hustles and things that we've talked about today?
You covered a lot of things. I would just say, like, for anyone who's kind of wanting to take that next step and maybe kind of afraid to take that leap, it is scary, but we definitely live in an age where anything is possible as far as your dreams and wanting to make them happen. And really, because I have so many different side hustles, because I have so many different things going on, no day is different. That's one of the best things about this. I don't, not every day I just don't get up and go to the job and, suffer through it and then come home and the next day is the same and so on and so forth. Like, that's what I really hated about my previous jobs. Every day, it's a different day where new things happen, new possibilities like this, like presentations, like, meeting new people. And while some days, yeah, they're not great, I'm not pulling in a whole lot of profit one month versus the next, or I'm spending way too much money on beekeeping equipment this month, not making enough profit, it's still so worth it to have that, freedom and that variation from day to day, that I wouldn't trade it for the security that, a stable income job provides. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's just that comes out. It's awesome to see it. From the website, from Facebook, kind of felt that like, hey, this is somebody who legitimately is grinding and working hard, trying to make sure that this happens, and now having this opportunity to kind of talk with you. I love the stick to itiveness and the learning and the growing kind of thing. So, Justin, again, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for reaching out, and good luck with keeping on doing this. You're doing a lot of work for this, and it's a great endeavor to follow, so I appreciate your work.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, Start the Thing family. We go faster, we get better, and have more impact when we learn with one another. Thanks so much for sharing your story today, Justin, and thanks so much for being on the show. Start the Thing family. We will see you again soon. By chance, if you have not yet liked the podcast or the YouTube channel, please feel free to go ahead and do that. And again, we'll see you in a future episode.